Good evening, Saints fans, and welcome to the wrap-up edition here of NSA football 2024 season. And here we are having the head coach of Saints varsity football, Mike Biehl, with us. Mike, how you doing this evening?
Doing great, Rags. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm doing great, and for some of the Saints followers out there, I mean, they haven't missed an episode, but just with my work schedule, it's been kind of busy here the past 2 weeks, but wanted to have you come on and talk about the final two games and wrap up the 24 season.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really appreciate it. The great thing about the way we finished is, like most teams, you want to start fast, you want to play well throughout the whole deal, but you really want to build to a crescendo and get yourselves ready to play your best football towards the end of the season to hopefully make that playoff push. And with our guys, we were definitely playing our best football towards the end of the season with games against Fredericksburg, and then the last game against St. Anne's Belfield. And Fredericksburg came into our place undefeated, and man, that was just a back and forth battle where, defensively, I thought that was our best football game. They had been a really explosive offense with their quarterback and their running back really carrying the load for that team for really the back half of that season. The quarterback was coming in with over 250 total yards a game, throwing and scrambling. The running back was averaging about 8 yards a carry, averaging about 150 yards on the ground. And we held the running back in check, and for the most part, held the quarterback in check. And, man, it was just – I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said that was the most exciting game they had seen in a long time because, they take the lead in a freak play. We get them to about 3rd and 13, and we're playing a zone coverage, and our best defensive back defender and Howard Casterlow goes to zone turn, and his feet get caught, and he falls down for an easy pitch and catch on a touchdown with about 5.5 minutes left. So he's devastated because he feels like he gave up a big play, and we all look at each other and say, "Look, there's plenty of time. Like, let's just go make a play." And I'll be darned if they don't kick the ball to Howard Casterlow and he takes it 85 yards to take the lead back. Wow. And from that point, it's all about getting a stop. And they did a really good job, got a couple first downs, got to about our 40 or 35 yard line, and we got them to about 3rd and 11 and had the quarterback wrapped up. 2 guys had him in the backfield for a sack, and as he's going down, underhand flips it to their running back. All of our guys are in coverage, and he scampers in the red zone, and that was the go-ahead play right there. They ended up scoring with about minute 45 left, and we got the ball to about the plus 40 or so and just couldn't make enough plays to get down there and answer. But heck of a ball game. That was one where you kind of walk off and you're disappointed about the loss, but man, I was incredibly proud of our guys. There was every play that was made, they just strapped it up and made another play, and that's what you want. You hate losing in any fashion, but you really want to see how your guys respond and what kind of energy and effort are they giving. And it was 100% dumped on the field that night. And like I said, I could not have been prouder of that group that night. And really, we needed to win both games to give ourselves a chance in the playoffs. So we're in that weird predicament heading into the last week where we haven't been in that situation for a long time. I mean, I think we've made the playoffs 5 years in a row. And there's been instances where we've had to win out to get in, but we've never gone into the last game of the season with really no chance of making it. And this was our first, foray into that situation. So you don't know how kids are going to handle that. You go into it with the understanding like it's our last opportunity as a group together. We got to take it seriously, but 14 to 18-year-old kids, you
Yeah.
don't know how they're going to react when the ball is kicked off. And I'll tell you what, they made me equally as proud the following week. They came ready to play, 2.5-hour trip. They got off the bus ready to go. And that was kind of a back and forth battle for most of the first half. But we came out in the second half and really just took care of business, played our best football defensively, offensively, kicking. Henry Ross kicked a 47-yard field goal to take the lead at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those instances where, actually that tied it up, to tell you the truth. It was 17-14, and we're on the 30-yard line, and it's 4th and 6, and my gut says, man, we can pick up a first down here, but we've been putting so much time and effort into our PAT and field goal unit because Henry's so talented. I'm like, you know what? I know he can make it from here, so let's do that. And he nails it, gives us momentum to go get a stop, get the ball back. I think the very next play, after we kick the ball off, we force a turnover, get a touchdown, and that kind of got us rolling a little bit to where we didn't look back from there. So just a really good effort. Can't say enough about St. Anne's Belfield, though. Coach the Heath Miller,
right.
Gonna have that place rolling. Those guys, they came in a little bit banged up, I think, and they did not stop. Regardless of what the score was or what kind of maybe miscues they had throughout the game, they just kept coming and kept playing. He's going to turn that thing around really quick. But just a really good way to end the season for sure.
Yeah, and to all the listeners out there, you say 2.5 hours, so you hop on 64, like you're going to UVA, and it's out that way. And St. Anne's Belfield, I mean, that's I've lived in the area since '87, and my nephews, started going to Greenbrier Christian probably like 2007, 2008. So definitely remember, St. Anne Belfield coming down and playing area private schools with guys by the name of Chris Long and Kyle Long. And if the last name sounds familiar, their dad is there in the Fox studios there on Sunday, Howie Long. I mean, so, it was a school that had great private school football. Then it decreased on, players. So then they went down to 8-man, and now they're back. And when you say the Heath Miller, I mean the UVA, UVA alum and former NFL player that's now leading their program.
Yeah, I got to spend about 15 minutes with him pregame, which was it's kind of surreal to see him kind of running around doing all the pregame stuff that us high school coaches have to do. And I kid you not, Heath looks like he could still catch a couple first down passes. There's no doubt about that. But just got to spend a little bit of time with him in terms of, where they're at and building their program and what he's doing to kind of really bring it back to where it was before they went to 8-man. And they're doing all the right things, but man, he's all in. And like we've said multiple times on our show, and it's just good for all of us if we're all pushing our programs to become the best programs they can be, because the competition's better. And he's got really, really high goals for that program, as he should. I mean, you walk on that campus and it's very obvious that it is an institution of higher learning that's been there for a really long time, that it's important for them to compete. And it was just really, really cool to get to speak with him, with his, experience level and understanding, and trade stories of just high school coaching. And to get a guy like that with his acumen is pretty unbelievable. And like I said, it's going to be good for everybody. But what's funny was right before we left, or the day before, I'm sorry, in our walkthrough, I told our guys, like, you got to understand that the situation you're walking into, because
Right.
their fans are right on top of you. Like the
Oh.
visiting bench is behind their home stands.
Oh. Okay.
So, and it's a low, like brick kind of stadium where the students and the parents literally can lean over and high five you. They're that close, and they are nonstop. Like the kids look up the roster. They're going to know who you are. They're going to know your stats. They're going to, I mean, and it's a fun environment. But I was like, guys, this is a place, you know, rich in tradition. Like
Yeah.
Chris Long was supposed to be there, and I'm like, son of Howie Long, and
Right.
you know, I give them the whole spiel, and I get like 4 guys come up to me after we break, and they're like, "Who is Chris Long?" I'm like, guys, like
Right.
he's a UVA Hall of Famer, played in
And,
the league for 12 years, won 2 Super Bowls. His dad's
and
a
you're
Hall
an
of Famer.
Eagles fan, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I took offense to that. I had a few. Joey McGowan knew who Chris Long was. There's that was for sure. But yeah,
Well, his dad's an Eagles fan, and
100%.
he's from a sports family, you know?
Yes, very true. He kind of gave them the side eye just like I did, so that was good.
Right. But you know, the thing is, and even back to you know, Fredericksburg Christian. I mean, I know that you guys lost, but you know, that was, you know, dual hatted there for the school and for the team. It was homecoming, and
Yeah.
then it was also senior night.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I tell my guys, you know, full transparency, as a coach, as a player, never liked homecoming because it's hard to win. It's hard to win with nothing going on, with no distractions, because there's always something going on with everyone. So then when you add the homecoming factor, you add senior night, there's literally a million things going on to detract you from what we have to do come kickoff time. And to our guys' credit, they handled it really well. You know, they had a really good week of prep going into that. You could tell it mattered to them. They did their homework. They were ready to go. And the game played out that way. And like I said, that was one where, you know, you're walking off the field and looking at the other players, and they're devastated because they knew they gave everything they had. And that's, you know, as devastating as it is, that's what you want. You want to leave it all out there. And that was, I mean, the most proud of them that I had been all season, regardless of win, loss, whatever. Like they just went. They did everything they could do to win the game, and unfortunately, they made maybe 1 or 2 more plays than we did. And that's, you talk about at our level, you know, how do you measure success? You measure, obviously, wins and losses is one metric you can look, but you got to look at the growth. You got to look at what your team looked like from the start to the finish. And our guys looked like a completely different team by the end versus when they started. So in that aspect, man, I couldn't have been prouder of them.
Yeah, and you know, and then when you went to Stab, you know, the nickname there for St. Anne Belfield. I mean, you know, a high school kicker nailing a 47-yarder that's not even on his home field.
Yeah.
I mean that is that, you know, that is where people like take a double take there when a high school kid goes out there and puts it through.
Yeah, no, Henry's a talented kid. I mean, first off, before you talk about his kicking acumen, he's a heck of an athlete. He's probably one of our fastest kids, 40 wise. He's probably one of our most explosive kids. Like he's 180 pounds. I mean, he power cleans 250. He can jump. He can run. He's, if I was recruiting a kicker, he's the type of kicker I would recruit. Being in that world for 5 or 6 years, like you want an athlete. You don't want just a kicker because they're a little bit different breed. Like
Right.
he's just an athlete. He plays receiver for us. He came in and played nickel corner for us. Like he can do anything athletically that we ask him to do. But I think, you know, he's going to be my first recruitable kicker that I've had.
Oh, cool.
Since I've been at NSA. He went to Cole's national kicking camp last year and got he got ranked in the top 60 of his class nationally. So he's going to turn heads again this recruiting cycle when he goes to some more of those camps. But he's a workhorse, man. He takes it really seriously, and that's why, you know, we're on the 30. You're like, oh, this is not the NFL, like. But for him, like, we've seen him do it. He's kicked 55-yarders in practice.
Wow.
Off the tee, no problem. You know, on grass. This was on turf, so I felt really good about that. But man, it was one of those things that when we called the field goal unit out, nobody double takes. It wasn't like, oh, like I've been in college huddles where we run a kicker out for a 47-yarder, and guys are like, okay. But with him, like, we do it so much in practice, and I think so many guys have seen him do it. Like, we fully believed that he was going to make that kick. And it's one of those things that it was early enough in the game still. We're early in the third quarter. If we miss it, there's plenty of game left to go get the ball back and score again. So it was, you know, could have went either way, obviously, being a kick. But with him, like, I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, I see that now VISAA, you know, for football has gone from 3 divisions back to 2 divisions.
Yeah.
So, you know, is there, and I don't know if it's because of officials, you know, with VHSL, but is there talks about maybe expanding to at least 8?
So for us, that's a great question. We as a division posed the question, or really we voted on it last January at our state meeting to expand to a 6-team playoff.
And top 2 have buys.
Exactly. And the whole premise of that was, you know, we're adding teams to our division by consolidating from 3 to 2. We're always talking about how we can help our game, how we can help our product. Why wouldn't we make the playoff more competitive, include more teams, give the top 6 a chance to go in and play their way into a state championship versus making it a 4-team playoff where, you know, you kind of know pretty, not early, but by week 6, 7, and 8, you have a really good idea of who those top 4 teams are going to be, barring, you know, maybe some last week matchups between playoff teams, that the 6-team playoff would make a lot of sense. And that's kind of what I was just talking with our coaches today. That's what makes this first week off, you know, that much more difficult. We go win our last game. We play our second to last game as well as we do. We're in the top 5. So
right.
we would have been getting ready to go play in that first play-in game. So I'd like to see that, you know, revisited. I mean, again, we voted on it. Every Division II coach voted for it. And it's just about, you know, kind of figuring out the logistics of it, because it changes the calendar a little bit in terms of how long it goes in. But man, I think most people want to see that. And I think if you're including more people in that playoff atmosphere and ability to play for a championship, it just makes everything better.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I guess hindsight's 2020, but you know, I mean, even this year, you know, if it went to that 6, or even if it went to an 8, you know, then you're at 3 weekends, you know, and that's still a week before Thanksgiving on how the calendar fell this year.
Yeah, 100%. And the like I said, there was no pushback with Division II. With Division I, they were not for it because they actually have fewer teams participating in the playoffs because, I mean, and it's one of the idiosyncrasies of private school football. A lot of the Division I schools in VISA are Richmond schools, and a lot of the Richmond schools participate in the Richmond playoff system, where that's, you know, king up there. So you're getting some of your best teams in that division aren't participating in the state playoff because of how important that other playoff system is to them. So it made more sense for them to stay with that 4-team, you know, playoff system, and we're not beholden to that. So, like I said, you know, there's a couple different things that we're going to talk about this year at that state meeting. That'll be probably the first thing on the agenda, because again, there were so many teams this year that were so closely matched. Like we played Atlantic Shores as close as they've been played that entire year for about 3 quarters. They're a playoff team. Fredericksburg Christian comes down to literally the last minute of the game. They're in the playoffs. So the parity that we're looking for is there, and it's going to continue to be there next year, I think, with who everybody has coming back. So it would make a lot of sense. It would generate a little bit more excitement for our game, especially our division. So I'd like to see that change. And I think a lot of people would also like to see it change. So hopefully that's what happens.
Yeah, and let's see. So, 24 season in the books there for NSA. What's on the horizon here for the 25, or do you pretty much take a break and kind of enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then when you go back to school after the Christmas break, then maybe kind of focus on the 25 season when the calendar turns to 2025?
Nah, I'm a psycho. I do. So this week is like my wife says it's my mini depressive state of not being at practice, missing our coaches and guys and all that. But we're doing equipment pickup this week. But really, it's churning out highlight films for guys that are recruitable and making sure they have what they need to send that stuff out. And then really for me, the next 2 weeks or so is all about self-scouting and figuring out, man, we were really efficient here and not so great there. Or, it's kind of a checklist type thing where I'll go and look at scheme, look at plays, look at players. And then from there, you look at skills. Like, all right, we do X, Y, and Z really well or a really efficient level, but we're not where we need to be in these levels. And that kind of builds what we'll go into camp next year with, depending on, obviously personnel drives that a little bit too. But in terms of like, this is where we were last year, this is where we ended up this year. What are the differences and where can we kind of mitigate some of those gaps in efficiency levels, whether it be scheme or skill or any of those things. And then from there, it's about finding the right clinic to take our coaches to where we can sit down for a weekend and really go about what our goals are moving forward. But the one thing I'll say about our program, which we're really lucky, is that we played a ton of young guys. The most underclassmen that we've ever had playing in key roles as sophomores, really, and some freshmen. We started a freshman at linebacker at Stab, who also started at running back a couple games earlier in the season. You look at throughout our defense, one of our starting strong safeties is a sophomore who played incredibly well. The guy on the opposite side playing safety is a sophomore. So like there's a ton of young guys coming into that group that have a lot of experience going into next year, but we have a ton of freshmen that were on this team. I think we had 12 freshmen, and 7 of them were on special teams and were rotational guys somewhere. So there's a lot to build off of. And we have a really big middle school program. They have 44 kids. Wow. I'm pretty sure they have 14 eighth graders that we'll get next year. So, it's all about how can we progress that group to be not just rotational role players, but guys with true positions that can really help us. And how do we get them from point A to point B from January to August with them playing different sports and doing different things. But it's an exciting time for our program, I think. And to me, it's always you got to self scout and see where are you trending, where are you trending up, where are you staying the same, where are things going down a little bit, and what are you going to do to make sure things continue to go up or pick the levels up from where you're at. And that's a nonstop thing. And luckily, like I don't have any hobbies. So this is all I look at. And I'm lucky that I have a group of coaches that kind of think very similarly and want to have those conversations to where, it's just a constant, what are we going to do about this? What are your ideas about that? So that's kind of what these next couple weeks play into, on top of doing exit interviews with players, getting their thoughts and what their goals are for the off season and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a year-round deal. When we get back from January, or from Christmas break, I should say, that's when our off-season program will start, and we'll have a bunch of guys in track. We'll have some guys in basketball, and then I'll probably have 12 or 15 guys that aren't playing winter sports, and you want to integrate those guys into the foundational level of the strength program. So yeah, it's nonstop, but it's, if you want to be competitive, that's how it has to be.
That is, and I mean, I know that coaches nowadays, encourage multiple sports, and but I know with being a head coach of a high school sport, if you don't have a kid that wants to play basketball or run track, but is all in for football, and is an upperclassman, wants to play the next level. So I know that you definitely want to help that person. And then you got little Johnny that comes up from 8th grade to 9th grade, and he's all in. So I could see where you do have an off-season program for the kids that don't play any winter sports. And you say that you're a psycho. I mean, with you coaching, I do remember you being under center and hitting the record books there between you and Ryan Pond here of VHSL with passing yards there in early 2000s.
It's funny you say that, because one of my Pee Wee football coaches posted on Facebook today a throwback picture of the 2001 All Beach District photo with the article on there. And I haven't seen that photo or article in over a decade, but I'm looking at the caption, and there's Coach Beatty, and he's like, yeah, Mike, one thing Mike excels at is being competitive. Hey, you know it when you see it. But you said it really well. I want our guys to go experience as many high school sports as they can, because when it's done, it's done. And I have probably 5 or 6 guys that were kind of on the fence about playing basketball or running track, and they'll never hear me say, don't do it. Like, I want them to do it, especially like certain position groups really should do it. Like, I have a kid that's a really good edge rusher, but he wants to transition to play linebacker. Well, what's better to help you hone those skills than playing transitional defense in basketball? Like, you're flipping hips, you're seeing vision, you're having guard space. Like, those things transfer over. Like, I have another kid who's a DB who's borderline whether he's going to run track. I'm like, why would you not run track? Like, you're literally going to help yourself in the biggest metric that you can measure for your position, and that's speed, and you can still get all your lifting in. So, and I think I'm really lucky to be at a place where it's small enough where you can't hoard players. Like, it's just not going to work for all of us. Like, we have to share athletes, but we also have to be pro multi-sport, and also give them, kind of the leeway to say, hey, go to track practice, go do what you have to do. I'll have the lift for you at this time. It's not going to interfere with what you're doing there. Same with basketball. Like, man, we're in a world where you have to continue to get stronger. You have to be able to recover. There's no better way to do that than lifting in season and doing it in a smart way. And we have kind of the facility, the time, and the space to do that. So, it's all about getting the buy-in from them to know, like, you're not missing out if you're not in the winter conditioning. You're competing as an athlete. Like, there's nothing better than that. But we'll still have the supplementary lifts so you can continue to get stronger. And that's the biggest, I think, tug of war with kids and parents. They think they're going to miss out if they're not doing one thing versus another thing. But I think if we're all universally saying, like, there's nothing better than playing another sport, for your body, for your athleticism, for your competitiveness. All of that is up here compared to everything else. Once you get buy-in from the whole athletic department that is the key, I think it makes it a lot easier. And that's, fortunately, that's how we are with our guys. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, and and looking at y'all's schedule, I mean, I know with some teams, they're in the TCIS that have gone to 8-man or even left the TCIS. I mean, here for football, there was only 3, in conference. So with only 3 teams, that means that only 2 games is a conference schedule. So then you have to go and fill out the rest of your games, and you just aren't gonna pick just random old private school, because
Right.
you definitely want to challenge your kids, and going out to North Cross, or exchanging home and homes with Fredericksburg Christian. I mean, so it's definitely hard nowadays here to fill up a 9-game schedule. And like we said on a past show, come last spring or the beginning of the summer, there was one school on your schedule that didn't field a team. So you guys actually had 2 buys this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. And we're going to do everything we can to avoid that. Now, it ended up working out for us having the extra bye, just by way of, guys getting a little banged up here
Right.
and there, and just different things that came up within the season. But it was really strange to not have a 10-game season. And really, in the end, that kind of hurt our playoff, push there. If we had 5 games, depending on who that 5th opponent is, that may have been enough for us to get in. So, like you said, it's so difficult scheduling a private school schedule, not knowing the landscape from one program to the next, especially when you don't get any kind of intel that a program's
Right.
dropping you from the schedule until right before the season. And that's not normal. It was an abnormal, year for us in terms of scheduling that way. But I mean, this is the earliest we've had teams lined up in our schedule, because we don't want to be in that situation again, whether, like you said, whether we got to pick up a public school to fill out that 10th game, or whether, we can count on some of those teams that left to come back, whether it be HRA, Greenbrier, any of those teams that are local would be fantastic. But yeah, we don't want to be in that position again. And to me, like, as a kid, like, you're expected to play 10 games. So I feel like they kind of got cheated out of a game a little bit. And I say cheated in terms of not being able to play, not the team that dropped us. But
Right.
man, yeah, we're working hard on it right now. Myself and TW Johnson, our AD, to find that full schedule to where it makes sense for us to, maybe we can mitigate a little bit of the travel, but also to make sure our guys are getting all the opportunities to go play that they deserve. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Norfolk Christian, pre-pandemic had a
Hmm.
great program, and has nice facilities there on Thole Street. But they didn't have a team. I just noticed it this year. I don't know if it's been other years, but there's another TCIS
Hmm.
school that didn't have football this year. And if you have local, then it cuts down the cost. And
Hmm.
even the first game going to Roanoke, yeah, these road trips, you can build camaraderie and everything. But after riding 4.5 hours, and then warming up, and then teeing it up, and let's go. I mean, it's hard here for 14, 18-year olds, and then with having mostly underclassmen team.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point because 2 years ago, our last game of the season was in the playoffs in Roanoke. And we went on a Friday, stayed overnight, played
Oh,
Saturday. And we had, I think, 7 freshmen on that team that made that trip. And they were, for the most part, role players, special teams guys that definitely got on the field but weren't playing, 30, 40 snaps.
right.
Those same guys,
Right.
fast forward one season later, are starting in the same place on the same field, but now they don't have those upperclassmen that had been on that trip 3
Right.
times prior to, and it affects you. It's a different deal taking that trip and playing 40 plus 50 snaps versus going up as a freshman that's fired up playing the playoffs to play your 10 or 12 snaps, maybe probably more like 7 or 8 really when I think about it. And that's a tough deal for anybody, much less an underclassman that's a starting running back or a starting safety or what have you. But like you said, if you can mitigate some of that by adding some of the local guys in, and you mentioned Norfolk Christian, one of my really good friends from high school, his kid plays on the middle school team, and they're saying they are going to have a varsity football team. So that bodes really well for everybody in the area, much less the conference. So we just got to keep that momentum building in terms of like making it applicable for these schools to come back when they're ready and make it as easy for them to schedule as possible so that they can keep having it. So the trend is on the right direction. Like I think we've said a couple times, HRA is really close. We're trying to get them on the schedule. I know Greenbrier wants to do it. Don't know if they have enough guys yet, but there's multiple schools around the state who went to 8-man that are joining the VISA again in terms of being close to Roanoke and that conference. So it's getting back to where it was pre-COVID. It just needs to continue building that momentum, I think.
What about Hampton Christian? Do they have a football team
They,
anymore? Or
they haven't had it since I've been here.
oh, okay,
Southampton was one that had football and then went to 8-man. I've heard that they're trying to get back in.
that's right.
Um,
They're a private school.
yeah, VES is another one. They have a
Oh
really good
yeah,
lacrosse program, but they're supposedly getting back into football next year. And again, just the more of those teams that we can get back in the fold, the better it is for everyone, because that's in the Blue Ridge North Cross region. Because right
right.
now, both of those schools, they have to schedule some really one
Right.
far opponents, but 2 big time Division I opponents because they don't have that many places to travel to. So
Right.
it's just helpful for everyone. The more schools we can get back involved, and to me, like clearly I'm biased. I'm a high school football coach, but what it does for your school, your camaraderie, your
Yeah.
community, like to me it's unmatched. Just because how many players are involved, how many families are coming to the game. Now they're on campus, they're mingling with other families. Like it's just you can't really put a value on that, but you need it.
Right. Well, hey, Mike, I know that my personal schedule here at the last 2 weeks of October, kind of, had a delay, but no, appreciate mainly the week by week drum beat and then coming on. I know that I definitely texted you, to kind of have a wrap up show. So appreciate you coming on and talking Saints football and definitely private school and with the opponents you guys were playing.
Nah, the pleasure's all mine. I remember, I'll be 100% transparent. I remember when you texted me a couple weeks before the season about possibly doing it, and my gut was like, there's not enough hours in the day as it is. But
Right.
I'm so glad you reached out. I'm glad that I got a chance to do this with you. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I hope we can do it next year. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to come talk about our program and private school football in general, because we have a good product. But just really appreciate the opportunity, Rags.
Sure, you're welcome. And hey, have a good off season. And I know let's see a couple, back to highlighting some NSA alums,
Hmm.
they're here. I know that Elon's playing William and Mary,
Yep.
JMU coming to Norfolk on the 16th, and let's see, their Virginia Tech,
Hmm.
has an alum, and I know a couple of D3 schools, so they're
Yep.
probably coming into their playoffs, and then of course Cole, they're with the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, it's we've got a lot of guys playing a lot of football, and it's awesome. I think this is the most we've had at one time, and we just got to keep it rolling because
Yeah,
it's so great for our guys to be able to look at the guys that were in their shoes going and playing on Saturday, whether it's at Virginia Tech or whether it's at Randolph Macon or JMU. Like,
right.
we want our guys to understand, like, if you want it, it's there for you to go get, but here's the path that these guys chose to take, and they're representing our school so well, whether you're talking about Cole, just week in and week out doing his thing, or Griffin at Virginia Tech, or Georgia JMU. They're all competing their tails off, but they're all doing the right things, and doing it the right way. So it's been really cool season to be able to follow all those guys all at the same time. Just those texts Saturday night after games are the best. Whether we win or lose, to get that text from them or to get a clip of them making a play, there's just nothing better than that. So it's been really cool.
And you talk about win or lose, but when you get those texts from those alums, it's definitely about
Mhm.
relationships, and nothing against when we were growing up, but especially now with mental health and just winning at the game of life,
Yeah.
that definitely has to be rewarding, that they don't see you in the school building anymore,
Mhm.
but just with you being a mentor and a coach when they were in those hallways there off of 460, they can count on you for
Mhm.
reaching out to you, even if it is a text. With playing football, you coaching football, it's definitely a busy fall season.
Yeah, no, and I tell those guys, whether it's at the end of the season at the banquet, whether it's at graduation, like, call, text. I don't care what time it is. That's what it's all about. Like you said, it's the relationships of understanding, like, your family. That doesn't graduate. So I mean, that's one of the most fulfilling things, to get a text from a guy. Hey, can I chat for a couple minutes? Absolutely. To get those calls and texts, man, that's what I had growing up in my coaches. So if I can do the same thing for these guys, and pay it forward so that they can do it for the guys that they're going to coach and mentor, man, that's how we keep the game growing. But that's, like you said, that's how you keep relationships strong. And it's always really easy to say this is a family. It's a little bit different to go act on it, and that's what it's all about. So it's awesome.
Well, hey, Mike, thanks again. And I'll go ahead and get this episode out here, with it being the wrap up here of the final 2 weeks and the overall 24 season. So thanks again, and go Saints.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
All right.